Hello everyone, welcome back to another behind the shot video with me, Farhan Khan, and today I'm going to be showing you a photo shoot that I did recently, which was Arabic abaya fashion, predominantly black clothing with lots of detail in terms of fine beadwork and embroidery. And this photo shoot was all based around a theme of water and brightness and vitality. So anyway, we're going to have a look at this. Let's just get rid of some of these notifications. Oh, everyone's happy. Okay, let's crack on. So first of all, let's have a look at the actual set. So we'll start off here. Now, if we have a look at the set, we can see it's made up of a couple of major pieces. Now, number one is this hard MDF freestanding solid wall, and if I was to draw this like it was a side view, it would basically look something like this. If we were looking at this from the side, it has a couple of battens that come down here, and it has another piece. So it's almost like a right angle triangle from the back, and that is what the background is. It's a solid background, which means not only is it very rigid, it also does mean that you can actually lean up against it, which can be useful. So we've got that as a background, solid white, painted white wall. And then on either side, we've got two V-flats. This one here, number one, and we've got another one on the opposite side, number two. And these V-flats are doing two things. Number one, they're extending the scene. So we've got a wider background, but more so, they're actually big reflectors. They are being used to fill in shadows, and they're being used to reflect light back. So the scene includes this wall here, the two V-flats, and then finally we've got a piece of canvas which has just been painted with white paint, and it's very rough. I just used paper bags and plastic bags, and I spread the paint around all over the floor. So it creates a little bit of texture, but it still keeps it very plain and very white. So that is the main set, or the design of the set. We've got the floor, we've got the background, we've got the two V-flats on either side, which are acting as fill lights. Now let's move on and look at the lighting. Before we do that, let's have a look at the props. So we've got this guy here and this guy here. I think I've got I've got a couple of different views of that. Let's have a look here. So all these are here, box number one and box number two. They're just simply IKEA boxes, IKEA shelf wall storage boxes, which I've just placed on the floor. And one more thing which I forgot to point out is this element here, which is actually quite an important element. This is a mirror. Let's see if I can find another view of that. Okay, let's have a look at this one. So we've got a mirror here, and this mirror is about 5 foot 10 inches tall, and it has a white frame around the outside, and then obviously it's just a mirrored panel. And we use this as a feature for the actual photo shoot. The designer wanted to have some reflective elements, so we've just placed this mirror, which again is all white around the edges, and we're going to use that as a point of interest. Okay, let's come back over here. So those are the white boxes, and now if we look at the lighting, essentially what the lighting is we first start off with this scrim, and this is a Laster Light 6x6 scrim. It has a metal frame around the outside, and it's actually being held up by a clamp. Let's find another view so you can see that a bit better. Okay, this is a better view. So you can see here we've got a super clamp, which is a Manfrotto super clamp. Let's pick another color. Let's pick something nice and bright. So we've got this Manfrotto super clamp here, which is coming down onto this light stand. And the back of the frame is actually resting on top of this panel at the back. So I'm only having to use one frame. Now that is acting as a big diffusion panel, and you might be able to see this light here. Just ignore this projector. There's actually a little bulb here. This is connecting behind this softbox to a Godox light, which is on a C-stand, and there it is. So there is a single 600 watt bulb, bare bulb, shooting light out into this scene, hitting the diffuser, which is then creating a very nice even spread of light. And I'll show you a picture of the diffuser here. So this is at the moment with just the light coming from the bulb above, hitting this, and it's spreading out the light here. Now this is where it's slightly underexposed, so I had to up the power of this top light, and that gave me a better exposure. And it's acting like a general overall overhead fill light, you could say. It's acting as a general overall fill. And this is what I would class as the key light, the main light, sorry. Or you can call it the key light. But actually it's not the key light, if you think about it. It's actually the fill light, because the key light is this guy over here. Let's get another color for this guy. This is the octabox. It's a deep, well, it's actually not a deep optic, it's just a large Rotolux octabox with an Elinchrom head. And what this is doing is it's bringing in all the light into the front of the model and lighting up all her clothing, and it's bouncing around over here, which is bouncing it back, it's bouncing into here, it's bouncing off the floor, and it's giving us a very nice illumination. And the light overhead is just giving us a general overall fill, and also softening any harsh shadows. Now you might see this light here and this quasar light here. They have nothing to do with the overall exposure going on here. These are just to light up the overall scene so the camera, which is down here somewhere, can actually see what is going on, because the actual lights in the room are rubbish. They don't give off enough power. So these continuous LED lights are just there to create an overall ambience in the room and allow the camera to basically focus. So I've got a quasar science tube here, and just a this is a Generay 1200 LED spotlight with a reflector. And I pointed at the ceiling because obviously this will illuminate the whole ceiling and just give a nice overall light. Okay, so once I've got the light dialed in, and I'm using my camera, which is a 5D Mark III, and the lens I'm using is the 24 to 70 2.8L, and I'm shooting it around f5.6 to f8. ISO is about 250, and the shutter speed is 1/120th of a second. Then what I'm aiming to do is just move around and have a look at some different angles and how it could look when I'm working with the actual model. So here you can see I've had a look at how the reflection would look, and it looked quite good. I was happy there. And if you just have a look at the main light, the key light from the front, you'll see what it looks like from the model's view. So this is the overhead light that we saw, and it's coming down this way. This is our main light. It's giving us a very good exposure on the model. And this here is quite simply a reflector, which was just for the model, really. I mean, yes, surely some of this light will be going through here, but it's not going to make a major difference. But it's really for the quasar tube in the background. And I put this diffusion panel here so it didn't blind the model. And also, because I was shooting video and I was using continuous light, I wanted light that was coming into the scene to be nice and soft. So that diffusion panel really did that for me. Okay, so let's have a look at a picture straight out of camera. So you can see here we've got a slightly yellow tinge, greeny tinge here, and this is because of the mirror. You can see the white on the panel here compared to the white from the reflection is slightly different. This was the reflection that was being given off from the mirror. But here you can see, and hopefully I'll just zoom in and it should make it clear, we can see that we've got black clothing, but we can still see details in the shadows. we can still see the work here on the design, all these little pieces here and here and here, which is obviously super important, and we can't neglect any of those. Let's have a look at this picture from a lower angle, and you'll be able to see exactly what that top light is looking like. And you can see where the top light is not actually coming through the diffusion panel and it's just bare. You can see the difference in exposure here compared to diffusion here. Now this is giving that overall nice, but if you look closely in the cancel that. If we look closely in the eye of the model right here, you can see we've got a nice catch light in there, and that obviously is giving us that little glint in the eye. Now I also incorporated this piece of plastic, and I will show you from this image here. I wonder if you can see. It's a piece of plastic. It's actually the Perspex from a IKEA frame, and that's actually been held together by a boom and another super clamp. And this has been sprayed with water, and I've been actually shooting through and creating some visual effects, because the link or the theme of this whole thing was to do with kind of water and winter, and we got some pictures which showcase that. I'll just bring up some of these pictures. So we obviously took lots of pictures on the day, but I'll show you what I mean by the whole water thing. Let's come in here. Okay, so here we have, this is a JPEG, I presume. Let's have a look. It might not be. Let's just crack this open. It's taking a little bit of time, just running off the backup drive, which okay, so let's have a look here. So this is what you can see here. This is from the, open this up. So here you can see we're using the frame and we're shooting through the frame. Let's have a look at another example. Here we have another one. That one wasn't very good. As you can see, that one was totally out of focus. This one was quite good from what I remember. I think this was my favorite. Yeah, so we were using the frame with water. Again, it's just to add that kind of visual interest. Now, I'm shooting, like I said, on the 24-70 because I wanted to come in and get some nice wide shots like this. You can see. And then I was stepping back and going a little bit wider when we were getting some of the full length shots, like so. See, there we go. And we did lots of outfit changes because it was quite a big collection, about 15 to 20 pieces. Here I'm really low to the ground and the model's striding through the scene. You can see we've got our light stands here, which we would clone out afterwards and crop in here as well. I don't really worry too much about those things when I'm shooting on the day, because I know I'll just fix them very quickly in post. And then we did another outfit change, and yeah, so that's the general gist of the shoot. I think I've got a picture here from a slightly different viewpoint. You can see we were shooting video as well right here. I was using the Ursa Mini 4.6K, and then the natural continuous LED light was helping with that, as was the quasar coming in here, and again giving us a nice exposure. Okay, let's head over to Photoshop and let's go through the editing process of one of these pictures, which was very, very straightforward. Let's hit up the desktop and let's crack open this picture. Okay, so this is obviously the raw file, and at this time what I'm looking at is shadows, because I want to pull up some of the detail in the shadows because we are dealing with a black outfit, and I'll have a look at the blacks as well, which looks good. And then I'm looking at the skin color, and obviously the makeup was a little bit warm anyway, so I'll just cool this down just so it's a little bit more natural. I don't mind the warm look. In fact, I do quite like a little bit of warmth in the picture, just not too much. And then at this point I'll add a little bit of sharpening. I find the sharpening in RAW is generally a good thing. And then I'll crack open this image in Photoshop, and I'll zoom in first, as I always do. I'll just bring up my layers palette. Here it is, and let's bring this guy over here. And I'll just make a copy. Normally I don't make any copies, I just work straight on the layer. So I'll just use a patch tool. I'm just going to clean up any blemishes, and I'm not going to go really crazy with the retouch, and the reason being is because I know the output is Instagram, right? And this is not a headshot, this is almost a full body, it's like a 3/4. So I know when this goes on Instagram at a reduced size, you are not going to notice or see hardly any blemishes or any issues. So I'm being very quick here. I'll go under this patch. That's too much, so I'll do a Command Shift and F, and I'll just reduce the opacity. I'll feather that, and I'll just do the same under here. Command Shift F, or Control Shift F if you're on a PC, and I'll just dial that in exactly how I want it, and I'll come out. And then all I do at this point is I will run an action, which is a frequency separation action, and I've got the low frequency, and obviously I've got the high frequency. On the low frequency, I'm just going to get the mixer brush tool. This is a very grungy, quick way of cleaning things up. And then all I'll do is I'll just brush some of the pixels around. I'll brush some of the lighter pixels into areas which appear a little bit dark. And anywhere where it seems to have a little bit too much of an abrupt change between light and dark, I'll just give that a little brush over. And again, I'm keeping this fairly simple and straightforward. I'm not going to overdo it. Again, I'll zoom out here just to see what's going on. Bring back in the brush. I'm just going to lighten this line here in her face, and I'm going to bring in some of the lightness around her eye, just to soften and make that look a little bit more flattering. And I'm just going to whiten this area up here a little bit and pull in some of this across to the forehead. So this is just using the mixer brush. I'm just pushing pixels around here. I'm basically painting, but I'm not affecting any of the texture, because the texture is on its own layer. So if we look at a before and an after, a before and an after, and that I would be totally happy with. But for this tutorial, I'll go one step further. I'll bring in the sculpt and contour action, which is a dodge and burn action, and I will get my brush, make sure this is a normal brush right now. I'll set that to white, and I keep the opacity at 100, and I put the flow on 4%. I make sure the brush is nice and soft, and all I will do is I will just paint this in a few areas, and I will just dab, 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 dab. I'll run a little bit along the nose, just under the eye here and here, just there, a little bit on the chin, a little bit on the side, a little bit on the lip, on the teeth, just here by the nose. I'll throw a little bit more under the eye, paste a bit in there, and then I will turn it off and turn it on. I'll reduce the opacity right down, and I'll bring it up until I find something that I like. So 79% works for me. Let's just zoom out and see how that looks again. Turn it off, bring it back up a little bit, and that looks okay. Let's turn it off, turn it on. Let's bring all these layers and merge them into one. See the before and the after. So that's it in terms of the edit, and then I can go into obviously doing a grade. Maybe I'll bring in the curves here first, lighten it a little bit, add a little bit of an S curve, a very gentle S curve that is, and I don't want to increase the saturation too much, so that looks good. I'll come in and do a color balance. Let's come into the midtones, and we've got to be careful here. We don't want to affect any of the blacks, so I'm just going to again cool it down a little bit. It's just a +3 on there, and on the highlights I'm going to throw in a little bit of cyan. I like to throw a bit of cyan in the highlights, but not enough so you can actually see it. So it's like a -3. Maybe I'll go -6. Yeah, -6 looks good. Again, the blacks are not affected in any way. And that's it for me. I've kept it fairly natural, and we've just added a little bit of an oomph there to that image. Let's merge these down. Let's just crop this so you can see a before and an after. We'll take the bottom image. Oh no, we've got the content aware scale on. That's the last thing we want to do. So let's just crop that again without content aware scale. Let's just unclick this, and let's just move this underneath so you can see where we're at, what we started with, and where we are with the final edit. And that's it essentially. That is all I did. The client wanted a little bit more of a desaturated look in the end. So what I did is I did a hue saturation layer. From what I remember, I took out the saturation, and then I changed the blending mode to soft light, but then I adjusted this accordingly around about 40-50% I think it was, and that took a little bit of the color out, added a bit more contrast, and it kind of worked in the end. And that was it. I'll show you a couple of the finished images and how they came out. If you go to the edits, graded, full res, I did a few more tweaks here and there, but essentially this is what we ended up with. And yeah, overall it was quite nice. I did a little bit more yellow, and I did a little bit of work with the whites on the skin, and we did get some beautiful pictures in the end. I was very happy with the overall shoot on the end of the day. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully you found some of this useful. If you did, as always, please hit the like button, subscribe. If there's anything I could have done better in explaining, if I've gone too quick, if you need to know anything else, please just ask me. I'm more than willing to help and answer questions. That's it. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.